I'm Joel Todt. I'm working for the Building Performance Institute Europe, which is an independent policy think tank. We are working on building stock decarbonization, and this is how we came across the concept of digital building logbooks, because we think that this is really a cornerstone of informing better policy making and policy implementation.
I'm Electra Papadaki, architect engineer. For over 6 years, I was working at the European Commission in the unit responsible for construction policy. I was back then the policy officer in charge when we started the work stream on digital building logbooks. And currently, I work as expert in the United Nations Environment Programme, dealing with annual reporting of the internal sustainability strategy.
My name is Jörg Ostermeier, and I'm one of the chairs of the UNEP-hosted Global Alliance of Building and Construction's Data Hub, which specifically addresses the topic of digital building logbooks, or passports, as we call them. DBLs, from our perspective, address the most crucial shortcoming of the construction sector, the building sector, or the construction industry, which is the lack of objective, transparent, reliable data on buildings. Everybody wants data, and very few people have the access to data that they would like to have. And our feeling is that building logbooks, building passports can address that shortcoming. DBLs will provide all kinds of stakeholders with the data that they need to do their job better, faster, cheaper, and more transparent and more reliably.
First and foremost, I think DBLs are value chain tools. So that means that their benefits are not limited to a certain sector or a group of value chain actors. So it's really across the board. And actually the benefits of digital building logbooks come from the accessibility and management of reliable data. So that actually is the use of the data which generates the benefits. And in a sense, that also creates hopefully an incentive that once data is being valued and perceived as a valuable asset, that will also incentivize in turn the use of building logbooks.
If we envision a full digital realization of digital building logbooks or passports, or they come in many names, and if we envision that these act as a single point of information, and they visualize and they include every information associated with the building, we can see them as a very important tool, a dynamic record of keeping information. As such, they can play a very important role, for example, as enablers of circularity, especially thinking of raw material consumption that is predicted to double by 2060 if we continue business as usual. We can imagine that more evolved logbooks that they include information of the material use, of the equipment use, of the systems, and all the different elements of the buildings, they can allow us better maintenance, they can allow us more efficient renovations, sometimes with less waste or less interventions. So there is a lot of potential of extending the building life cycle as well.
I think the main difference is that digital building logbooks should be simple and straightforward tools. They should be generally addressing the wider public. So it's not a tool which is the exclusive and privileged use of designers or engineers or facility managers, but rather they are aimed to the wider public. So that means they are more like underpinning public goods, essentially the availability of the data. So in that sense, they need to be cost effective, they need to be simple to access. They also need to demonstrate the quick wins especially for the building owners, which I think one of the key difference whereby this is different from BIM. And I think it's also DBLs are just such a no-brainer. They should be just implemented and taken up rather quickly.
Another difference is that building information modeling, although it has enormous potential in management, it is currently now used mostly for design and construction. So, of course, there is potential for generalized use, but for the moment, the cost-benefit ratio between using building information modeling for all buildings is not really weighting towards the use of building information modeling. When we're speaking about old building stock, like in Europe, or smaller residential buildings, we need really a tool that is more easy to use and has a very specific type of information, and their logbooks could be useful. We can have logbooks for all properties. Right now, we cannot have building information modeling applied to all properties.
On the one hand, I would argue that DBLs have a little bit of wider scope than BIM. Our explanation on DBLs typically is that everything which is relevant around the building should be in a DBL. That could include a BIM model, but it goes beyond that. It could include maintenance information, repairs, anything that you feel has relevance for the building, its operation, as an owner, its value, as an investor, its risk, and that goes beyond the models. It also addresses or differentiates clearer between existing and new construction. So we need to keep in mind that these are two very different topics. Eventually, everybody who needs data on a building should eventually be able to access them via DBL.
Everyone that needs building-related information is a potential user of DBLs. So we have building owners, tenants, buyers that are benefited by having all the information organized, verified, validated in place for the buildings, for the assets. In the moment of a financial transaction, it is very important to have quality information for the value of the building, the characteristics of the building, the potential of the building.
Financial sector stakeholders are also a very important benefit group of digital building logbooks, simply because it provides them with that sort of reliable data that enables them to choose the best financing conditions which are aligned with the risk profile of the property. And again, this is an information that is being calculated or assessed based on the data that the building logbook would provide.
Then, of course, we have construction professionals, facility managers, that, of course, the more they know about the building, the better they can intervene and manage it. And then we have guaranteed that digital building logbooks are spread and used in a wider sense. We have policymakers and researchers that they can extract important information and they can use it to make recommendations, to design policies, to consolidate information. And of course, as I said before, we have all the different providers, facility providers, but also financial institutions, insurance companies, that they could be potential users and be benefited by widespread use of digital building logbooks.
Obviously, we do need an entry point into the market. You cannot just say everybody will eventually use it. That is a little bit like not having a focus. So we see that individual technologies are driven by very specific applications. The smartwatch wasn't a success before all the health applications really took up.